with Stage 3, and we have Collin Smith from Viz.ai who's going to talk us about OKR, something that I have very mixed feeling with. So really looking forward to your presentation, Colin. As
Absolutely.
usual, if anyone has any question, just write it in the comment. Sorry, Colin, the stage is all yours.
Absolutely. And I guess that's why it's a hot take, right? I'm open to any challenges on this. When Armando originally had invited me to join, which I'm very grateful and honored to be here. I had just read some interesting studies on just our professional culture's consumption of software, and I was shocked and a bit a bit flabbergasted by some of the stats I'm going to share in a few seconds here. And I knew immediately this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to share with the audience and the crew and garner some feedback. So like everything, let's dive into it and let's keep the conversation open. So Massimo, you can go ahead and Massimo's driving, so I'm going to let him know when he's ready to click. So hello, formal introduction. I'm Collin Smith, head of growth here at Viz.ai. I'm located in the Washington D.C. area. I was an earlier commercial employee here at Viz. About a year and a half ago, I came off of a nice exit with my former organization, where I led commercial strategy, and it's been an absolute rocket ship. Very grateful for the ride here at Viz, and wouldn't trade it for the world. An interesting fact: I wanted to tie it into something entrepreneurial. I figured that's what the audience, a lot of the folks here, are interested in, and would get a crack out of the fact that when I was in high school, I actually started my first company as a jet ski license certification company. So in the state of Virginia, where I grew up, you had to take a 10-hour course. And everyone thought, oh man, we're screwing Collin over. We're paying him $50 and he's going to take a 10-hour course. But what I actually found was a loophole in the system where I was able to actually take the certification, the small boater certification exam, in about 6 minutes. So I was actually laughing to the bank. And my goal for those who grew up in the 90s and early 2000s was to get my entire certification completed before two Lil Wayne songs. So I played the Carter 3, and I went one Lil Wayne song, two Lil Wayne songs, and my goal was to get the cert completely done before that second song. So I was listening to some good old fashioned rap and having a blast in high school. You can go ahead to the next slide. So the origin, this is what we talked about a little bit at the beginning here. Again, when Armando invited me to join this Hot Takes Live webinar, I had just read some articles. I was doing some research. And I think that this phrase bloatware here really elegantly describes what a lot of us, and for those of us who are budget owners, and of course, those of us who are department heads, have probably gotten finance teams knocking down our door. And this is a hot take, right? SaaS has gone from helpful software to high cost bloatware. A few statistics here that you can check out there in the bottom right is 270% increase in SaaS spend over the last 3 years. The average employee is spending 2,800, and this is like average across small business all the way to enterprise. Of course, the higher employee count you get, the more complex your business gets. And for most of us on this call, we probably have a lot higher. But the average SaaS spend per employee is about 2,800, and that's a 75% year-over-year increase in budget. 75%. That's huge. Another interesting statistic that I read recently was that 70% of software consumption is on SaaS applications, which to me was mind-boggling, but it makes sense if you think about everything you're touching on an average basis. At least for us professionals, it's software as a service. So go ahead to the next slide. I want to jump in a little bit deeper. In short, right, we are seeing a surplus of subscription spend weighing down budgets. And if you are a budget owner, like myself, like many of you, you have most likely had finance come knock on your door. Hey, Collin, your budget or your department owns X dollars of subscriptions every month, every year. What is that doing for your business, right? Especially in this macroeconomic climate, folks are really trying to figure out how they can go lean. So a couple hot takes, if you will, that I've put down here, and these are very much open for discussion, right? These are not full predictions, but rather just inklings that I've had over the last 6 or 12 months, is that in the next kind of iteration of software as a service, tools must show value in less than 6 months to secure a year 2 renewal. And so if you, as my CS and account management friends out there, if you have an account that at the 6-month mark is not expanding, has lower utilization, maybe is still viewing the product in a fuzzy manner as a nice to have, not a need to have, I'd say you could bet they are an at-risk renewal. Second is that companies are likely not going to trim SaaS spend. In fact, I do think it's going to continue increasing each year with a bit of a bottom off. It may level out in the next coming years, but I think there's going to be more consolidation, right? We're going to see more point solutions get absorbed into platform solutions, which is good for most of us who have actually gone into business. So in fiscal year 22-23, we're going to see some more consolidation. And then third, I want to make sure that I preface here, I am not one of those guys or gals that says that robots are going to take over the world. What I'm simply saying is that we have so many amazing brains and intelligent humans on our teams that a lot of times they're wasting their precious brain equity on redundant tasks. And so one of my kind of future-looking hot takes and trends is that SaaS tools will be utilized for more and more redundant tasks over human capital. You saw this with payroll, right? You remember, or maybe you don't, but I had a friend in college who his family owned a series of large gas stations. And every Friday, his grandma was still doing their payroll by hand for like 250 employees. That's a great example that really quickly we know we have moved on and started to use technology to automate some of those redundant tasks. So in practice, yeah, you're good, Massimo. Thanks, buddy. You can go on to the next one. So in practice, you've heard my hot take that SaaS platforms should be managed by OKRs or some kind of MBO process, right? I shared with you some of my predictions for the future. Well, that's all fun and all. Let's get some actual insights. What's some stuff that we can do today? What's some stuff that we can do this week, right? That was the goal of this slide right here. Is I wanted to put down 3 things that you can actually put into place to determine your tech stack and your SaaS tools. Are they winners? Are they losers? Are some of them redundant, right? An opportunity to consolidate. Number 1, make a list of the SaaS tools under your team's ownership, right? Don't start small. Let's get some small wins. Don't have to go for the whole entire organization. Just start with your department and assign them to primary and secondary KPIs, SMART goals, right? As you bring in new technology, give them SMART goals, which a lot of us are probably doing informally, but let's start doing this formally. Second, track KPIs month to month to see which tools are aligned to improved metrics. Many of us are already tracking our KPIs month to month, if not week to week or day to day, right? We've got our solid set of inputs, outputs, and efficiency metrics. But what's a really interesting way to kind of flip this is what SaaS tools are assigned to those KPIs and how are those SaaS tools contributing to potentially upticks in efficiency and an uptick in performance. And what that gives us the opportunity to do is say, okay, what tools are really serving us well? And is there an opportunity for us to double down on investment with them, or an opportunity for us to maybe expand them into other departments and have them enjoy efficiencies? And lastly, third is if a single KPI has more than 4 tools assigned to it, check for either redundancy or try to be more granular in tools KPIs. And I put on here in brackets, every tool should not be assigned to increasing ARR, right? For example, Outreach.io. Ultimately, yes, or SalesLoft, or any sales engagement. I'm not preferential to any of them. Any sales engagement tool, you could quickly just stamp on every tool should be assigned to increasing ARR. But that's not granular enough. Let's say I brought a sales engagement tool on for our team, which we have. I might say, we want to increase our outbound activity by X%. Let's actually track that. Let's hold it accountable. And if we're not meeting that, it's not necessarily the tool's fault, right? The tool is often predicated on our training and our ability as managers and leaders to execute. But that gives you at least a leading indicator of how you're doing. and see where you can double down, where you could potentially cut some of the bloatware, and also where you can evaluate is something redundant or not. And in at least gives you an idea to make a decision on where can we do a better job. So finally, closing us out here on the last slide, I have a quote from a president, Harry S. Truman. It's one of my favorite quotes, politics aside. It's just a favorite quote of mine. Imperfect action beats perfect inaction every time. And then a little subquote. So begin measuring existing tools' impact today and build this practice, those SMART goals, into the procurement process for new tools tomorrow. Harry Truman and, I don't know, Collin Smith, some other guy in DC. All right. That was a lot. I'm feeling a bit winded and ready to field some questions. Who wants to throw some arrows on me for this hot take?
Awesome. That was extremely interesting and made me think a lot.
Yeah.
I have some question for you. I think the number one, which I think would be challenging for me, is very often the lack of baseline statistics. Like, especially when there is a new tool that is a new category or something really, really new, we might jump on it, start using it. But for example, it improves something that everyone in the team was doing, but we were not really measuring it. So I don't know, let's say Slack. We know that Slack is useful. It's challenging because we were not probably measuring how much time we were spending in-person meeting every day and how much time it's saving. How do you measure that?
So I like to think, especially as these software as a service tools, in a kind of two buckets. The first one's infrastructure, right? I'd put Slack, Salesforce.com, AWS. These are just infrastructure tools. They're kind of the cost of doing business today. Like if you want to open up shop, like maybe we think about, 50 years ago, you had to have a brick and mortar store. You're not measuring the impact of each brick, right? You just had to have it. I'd put Slack in that category. So I'm glad you brought that up. But let me also answer the question of a very real one for even that second bucket, which is these non-infrastructure or operational tools that really help to give you a competitive advantage and accelerate your growth, or accelerate whatever KPI that you assign to it. Oftentimes we don't have baseline, but the good news is you can start baseline today and then see once you actually adopt the tool, because there's often a leading indicator of 2-3 months. How is it trending from there? And my response would be to anyone who comes to me and says, hey, we want a tool. And then I say, okay, what do you want to improve? And they tell me, right? It's the GROW model, goal, reality, options, way forward. And the option is to adopt this tool. And they don't have a baseline for it. That's step one, right? The step one is let's get a baseline on how we're doing. Do we really need the tool? And then once we have a baseline, yeah, let's pilot it. Let's adopt it and then go from there.
That makes a lot of sense, and actually partially answer my second question, which was about tools are just tools and their effectiveness really depends on adoption within the company. And sometimes I find it challenging to measure how much is the tool that is ineffective, how much the team didn't really believe in the tool or were fully on board to use the tool correctly. And that makes a lot of sense, having that 3 months baseline to track if it gets improving. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you have any other suggestion to understand how much is the tool and how much is the human factor of the tool.
So I think, Massimo, the question you're kind of saying is, hey, how do we separate the fact that, honestly, like a hammer, right? If you suck at building houses, well, it's probably the craftsman, right? The craftsman, a good craftsman never blames their tools, right? If your KPIs that you're assigning to a specific tool aren't improving, is it really the tool's fault? I would say probably not. Now, I would say you could put partial responsibility on the CS and account management team of that vendor, that they haven't enabled us for success. But what I think is more important there is a cultural challenge, right? Is it a proxy? Is your underutilization or your lack of success with that tool, a proxy that you don't have a great handle on change management, that you don't have a great handle on rolling out new technologies. And maybe you're not ready
underlying bigger problems. Yes.
Yeah, maybe you're just not ready. Right? We all want to. My boss, my leader is he's very adamant about timing, and I respect him for it. We want to get to Z, but maybe we're just on, D. Maybe we're just on F. We haven't gotten there. We haven't grown into it yet. So that's another idea, right? Is that a proxy for the tool really not actually being that interesting in solving a business problem, or that we haven't really learned how to roll things out appropriately? And that's a much larger issue than that tool.
Cool. We are 3 minutes over time, but I have a last one. Actually, it's not really a question. Maybe you can help me formulate it a bit better.
Sure.
As you were going through the slides, I was thinking a parallel in the marketing world, which I really care about. And actually wrote a blog post some time ago about branding. Like everyone, especially in smaller companies, is really focused on being data driven right now. And I feel like in marketing, branding is often undervalued just because it's the most challenging part to measure. When we were at Espresso, I knew that the brand was a key element of the success. I knew that when we had a lot of bugs in the product, people were not churning because we had a strong brand, we had built a strong community.
Sure.
Basically, extremely hard to measure. And for the whole slides, I was thinking, is that a parallel with software? Are there categories of software that probably are extremely useful, but on the other side, it's extremely challenging to measure an OKR for that?
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking about branding specifically?
No, branding is a parallel to marketing. I'm pretty sure there are similar kind of tool in B2B SaaS as well.
Right. So I want to be respectful of time. Happy to continue this conversation offline, and obviously anyone, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. Collin Smith and Collin S. Smith, I think is my exact handle. And let's keep the conversation rolling. Massimo, if there's a specific kind of topic you want me to answer there, either today or offline, let me know.
Sure. Awesome. Collin, thank you so much for joining us. Super insightful.
Thank you, Massimo. Thank you for everyone. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you. And for everyone else, we are going on a lunch break, and we'll be back here at 1:05 p.m. Thank you so much. Ciao.